what might happen in the future. Not a crystal ball story. I can tell you what will happen to New Hampshire if you elect Maggie Hassan. See, because New Jersey has lived the horror film that your lives will become if you elect Maggie Hassan. And let me tell you why. See, we had a governor who ran in 1973, a Democrat, who said the state didn't need an income tax and he didn't favor one. Well, then in 1976, 3 years into his term, when New Jersey had the second highest property taxes in America, behind Massachusetts. I always like to say that in New Hampshire. He said, trust me, if you give us just a small income tax, I will use every dollar of that small income tax to lower your property taxes. And seniors and young couples trying to afford to buy a new home, they wanted to believe that. Because the seniors wanted to stay in the home where they had raised their families. And the young people wanted to be able to afford to buy a home to begin to raise a family. And so they said, okay, go ahead. And so this governor, Governor Brendan Byrne, a Democrat, he instituted a 2% income tax in 1976. 36 years later, New Jersey no longer has the second highest property taxes in America. We have the highest property taxes in America. And our income tax is no longer 2%, it's 9%. That's what happens when you let government get its foot in the door to a new avenue to grab into your pocket. Because let me tell you, that's what the income tax is. Because once you give them the chance, they are going to take and take and take, because every one of them has to justify their existence there in the Capitol in Concord. And the only way they justify their existence, especially if they're Democrats, is come up with a new program. New program that will make your life better. If it doesn't make your life better, it's going to make your neighbor's life better. They promise. And they're just going to spend a little bit in the beginning, but then the program's so wildly successful they have to spend more. But then the ones that are a failure, the reason you know why they're a failure? Because they don't spend enough. So they got to spend more on that program too. Because we can't kill a program that doesn't work. The only reason it's not working is because you're too cheap and you're not spending enough money on it. And when they need all this money, the only place they can go for it is if you give them a chance on an income tax. Because every year you're going to be making some income and they're going to want their piece. And in New Jerseyans have learned this. In the 8 years before I became governor, state government raised taxes and fees, and this is why I think Maggie really is a New Jersey Democrat. She is. Because Ovid told me that she voted to raise taxes and fees 99 times. Now, that makes her a bit of a piker by New Jersey Democrat standards, but not much, because in the 8 years before I became governor, she did that in 6 years. In the 8 years before I became governor, the Democrats raised taxes and fees 115 times. Now, that's a tax or fee increase every 25 days for 8 years. Now, you know, I'd like to say when I try to explain this to folks, like, how could this happen? How could state government raise the tax or fee every 25 days for 8 years? Aren't they exhausted already? I try to come up with explanations because I have friends on the Democratic side of the aisle. There's some nice people over there, and I try to come up with explanations. I thought, well, first, maybe it's the full moon. You know, maybe it's that when the full moon has a different effect on everybody, and maybe on Democrats in New Jersey, it is the gravitational pull of the full moon that has them just grabbing that money out of your pockets. They can't help themselves. And maybe it would make them feel a little bit better. That wasn't their philosophy. They couldn't help themselves. See, but it isn't, because they took it every 25 days more frequently than every new full moon. So we couldn't do that. And I am telling you that that's what will happen here in New Hampshire. This is the moment to stop this. If the residents of New Jersey had stood up and stood strong in 1976 and said, no, we don't have an income tax. We have been around for 200 years without an income tax, and we sure as heck don't need an income tax now. We wouldn't have a 9% income tax right now. We wouldn't be the third highest income tax state in America, behind only California and Hawaii. We wouldn't be that, but we didn't do that. Now, that's the part about the horror movie. See, look at what happened to us. From 2000 to 2009, we had a jobless decade. More private sector jobs in New Jersey on January 1st, 2000 than were there on December 31st, 2009. A jobless decade under Democratic leadership. Because what did they do? Raise taxes, increase regulation, raised fees, and during that period of time, spending went up an average of 16% a year.
Wow.
State government spending. Exploding all over the state. New programs everywhere. It's insane. Absolutely insane. You can stop that from happening here. You don't want that to happen to New Hampshire.
That's right.
And you have the man standing right next to me who will make sure with every ounce of energy he has that that will not happen to New Hampshire, its citizens. You got to elect him. Now, with 13 days left, and a race as close as this one, let me tell you, you've seen it all in New Hampshire, so I'm not going to bring any brand new information to you. I'm not going to get up here and split the atom for you. This is not going to be anything new or genius, but I want to remind you of what you've seen before and what you're going to see again. In the next 13 days, all they've got left in the arsenal is to scare you.
That's right.
That's all they got left. You see, the difference between Republicans and Democrats these days is that they believe in the power of fear, and we believe in the power of ideas.
That's right.
You know, and fear is a powerful emotion, and that's why they use it. And so what they're going to try to do is scare you about over it. They're going to try to tell you, well, you know,